Colin, what's your topic? Wait a second, Colin.
Yeah.
Before you begin your topic, I want to let you know while you do this, we'll be thanking our Patreon subscribers here who supported us at the tier to support us and get their name on the screen. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
We love you guys so much.
My topic is, briefly want to discuss with you guys Christmas presents. Specifically, maybe the best and or worst presents you ever gotten, like memorable presents that you received as a child or maybe as an adult.
Sure.
Some of the things that stand out to you. So I'll tell you about a few of mine, and then you guys can tell me about some of yours. A couple of them obviously are games. 2 games I remember specifically getting very, very well. One is Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. I remember getting that. We had our Super Nintendo already, and we got Link to the Past, and I was like, I can't believe that this, I'm playing Zelda again, and it's back to more of the original Zelda roots, not Zelda 2. So I remember that, being very excited about that. Not quite freaking out like the N64 kid, but very excited about it. The other game I remember getting is Mega Man 3. And that was a really seminal moment in my life because I was a huge fan of Mega Man 2 to the point where my brother and I would rent it over and over again from a video store in our area, and they eventually offered to sell it to us because they were like, "Why do we?" Because we were renting it like $5, for every week or whatever, and they're like, "Do you just want it?" Like
you can buy this.
And they're like, no one else is renting it. Not that you ever not rent it, so we wouldn't know if anyone else was interested in it.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the video store. Like I remember the whole thing. I remember the way it looks. They had like the things that turn for the games. Like all the movies were on the side. Yeah. This is like a mom and pop place called Showtime, right next to Ragtime. The pizza
nice.
And the boxes were all out there, and they had little tags on the front of them that you would take and then bring up. So if the tag wasn't on the box, then you knew the game was out. So I was obsessed with this, and in Nintendo Power they were teasing Mega Man 3, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be hopefully as good as Mega Man 2, and it ended up being my favorite game of all time. So I remember very well getting that. And the other present I remember getting is, and I don't remember the name of it, was a huge G.I. Joe Fortress.
Was it the carrier?
It wasn't the carrier. It wasn't the carrier. It was a thing. It was like
the dome.
Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't the Terradrome. It was like a thing that was it was like almost like a sand crawler. But it was taller and squatter. Okay. And it came with like a mechanic dude. I think his name was Cross Country. And it was fucking huge. And it's like still in my basement. And I remember my dad getting mad at me because he was putting it together for me, but I was just putting the stickers wherever I wanted to put them. He's like, that's not where they go. It's not like and his mind's probably like, I spent like fucking $200 on this, like.
It's gonna look perfect.
Yeah.
It's gonna look exactly like it does.
Put the star wherever the fuck I wanted to put them and stuff like that. And I remember how cool that was. Like I was like, I can't believe you guys got me this thing. Like,
yeah.
It's so fucking enormous. Yeah, and unnecessarily big. I don't think they even make toys like that anymore. Like these huge, massive, unnecessary play sets that you have to put somewhere.
Yeah.
Like where the fuck do you put this?
Yeah, G.I. Joe had some massive toys back in.
So those are just a few of my favorite. Not, just a lot of great, a lot of great memories, like G.I. Joes and then later Star Wars figures. I used to get a ton of them. Mm-hmm. So my parents would put them together and like put the bubbles together on opposite sides, so that would be like one package that would look like figures.
That's sick. That's
and
a
then
great
I would
idea.
be like, I don't know what this is. And I open it, it would be 2 G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
Your parents are like the best parents on the planet.
No, my mom used to do that too. Like, give me clothes box, and then I'd be like, and you open up his video game. She's like, awesome!
You did it again.
Yeah. Well, then you didn't know.
Yeah.
Then it was just a minefield out there.
Yeah, because I told you the story about. I've told the story about how my brother, for my birthday, got me all 3 Ninja Gaiden games on NES, but put him in a Bass shoebox to be a dick. I was like 7 years old or 8 years old, and he gave me this box with like a smirk on his face. I'm like, I was like 8. I'm like, you got me shoes, and he's just like, and I opened it up, and it was just all 3 games, and I was like, fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. You're like, Colin, you're the best.
I used to get a lot of toys. Obviously, G.I. Joe was huge. Transformers were huge when I was growing up. There was a show called Mask.
Oh, Mask was awesome.
Oh my God.
What's the theme song to Mask, Nick?
Mask. Yeah, it was so good.
Mask was legit.
I've never heard of Mask until last week when everyone around me was reminiscing.
Reason.
What?
And I watched the theme song. My God,
Yeah.
I missed the fuck.
You get the fucking helmets.
It was so cool. So Mask, for those of you guys that don't remember it or were too young to remember it or weren't born yet, was sort of a ripoff of Transformers in that it was humans piloting these vehicles, but the vehicle would be either a motorcycle or it would turn into a helicopter. Or in the main character had a Camaro, I think it was, and the doors would fold open like a DeLorean and it could fly. And I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. It doesn't get any cooler. It's never going to get any cooler. I'm stopping right now. This is it. So my brother and I asked for, of course, everything. Because when you got a brother, it's a very dangerous situation.
It's divide and conquer.
Right. It's divide and conquer. Or if your brother doesn't like you, it's he takes all your stuff and you're done. My brother was the divide and conquer kind of guy. So we would ask for everything, and then I don't know why we used to do this. Every 2 days before Christmas, my mom would put the presents out. So we would wait until they would inevitably go to bed.
Yeah.
We would go down, and in some sort of CIA surgical strike, we would open up all the boxes. All of them. Yeah, and my brother was super good at making sure that the package would come off without ripping, because the problem is the Scotch tape, once it hits, if it adheres, it'll rip it right off, right? And then you're someone can clearly tell you that you did that. So he was really, really good at that, and it would, every time I couldn't resist, I would be I don't want to know what I'm getting. You're ruining Christmas for me every single Christmas, but I'm going with you because I don't want you to know what I'm getting if I don't know. If that makes sense. But I remember the Christmas where we used to sneak up into my parents' closet, and they'd keep all of them up there. So I remember that Christmas we got, and that was when we got all the Mask toys, and I was like, dude, he got Matt, I think it's Matt Stryker, I think is the main character. He got the Chimera.
He was.
God.
He got the Chimera, and I got the little Jeep that when you press the button shot out and became a boat.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, this thing is the bomb.
Wow.
And I think he also got the motorcycle that if you flipped it, the truss came up underneath it and became a helicopter.
Blade, right? Yeah.
So cool. And I got the truck that when you it had big ass missiles on the back of it, you could just launch them. That was probably my best Christmas, I think.
Man,
That's awesome.
That's a good
That's
one.
a really good one.
That's crazy.
Just real quick, just on the subject of Mask and all these, G.I. Joe, all these things. The 80s were, and even into the early 90s, with TMNT started in the 80s, but up into the early 90s, I feel like were the best blatant avenues for fucking toys that I've ever seen. Much like Pokemon was an avenue for video games, it was just so blatant. Because when you go back and watch the G.I. Joe cartoons, especially, I love those. I knew every one of them front to back. I have hundreds of G.I. Joes. I was fucking obsessed with G.I. Joe. The 3 3/4 inch ones, 82 to 94.
Yeah, not the big
And-
ones, the original ones.
Remember the straight arm G.I. Joes from 82? They're really rare.
No.
They didn't. Yeah. Anyway,
No, I don't.
those cartoons are fucking terrible. They're on Netflix, or they were, and I
saw it.
I watched. I'm
some
like, oh, Cheryl and I were listening. I'm like, this is my shit. This was awesome.
This is my jam.
And I put it on. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, that's my problem with Transformers. It's shit. The original Transformers is so bad. And I think it's even worse than G.I. Joe when it comes to the toy
It is.
shilling
And
out.
I agree to that, but it's
because
still,
G.I. Joe made sense, right? G.I. Joe was this multinational organization where every time they went to another country, they would encounter more Joes, and those Joes would help them with whatever the A plot story was. If they were like, oh, we got to go through tunnels, we'll go get a tunnel rat, and he'll help us through the tunnel.
Tunnel Rat was awesome.
Transformers. So I tried to watch Transformers, and by episode 2, you're like, okay, there's a core of 5 or 6 Transformers that crash landed on the planet.
Yeah.
And they fight the Decepticons, and everything's cherry at the end of every episode. Then around episode 4 or 5, suddenly just 30 more Transformers.
Yeah. Episode 4, there's a whole other...
And you're just like,
They explain it.
do they?
Poorly.
They were on the thing. I guess they're on
flashbacks.
Doesn't matter. You're absolutely
script written by
now
a
that
Hasbro
we're thinking
executive.
about it, you're absolutely right, dude. Every single cartoon is just based to sell toys.
Sure.
Of course.
Well, the Transformers
And it
movie
worked.
is the biggest thing of this, where after 2 seasons, there's the movie. They immediately, spoilers, kill the first characters from the first episodes.
Yeah.
They kill that whole main cast.
so you can
All
start
die.
fresh when you figure.
Except for Bumblebee. And then Jazz later. But then after that, it's a whole new cast, and then seasons 4 and 5 are just all new ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they realized. It was the same thing with
Bring
the
that
G.I.
hot
Joe
rod
movie. It was the same thing with the G.I. Joe movie, where they're like, we're gonna introduce Cobra La, which means we need Serpentor, and you need Globulus and Nemesis Enforcer, and all these fucking random ass characters that were all totally different and bigger. I don't remember than the regular G.I. Joes. Globulus was this long, snake-like thing. Serpentor was bigger, and he had this beautiful cape. And
Yeah, I remember
Nemesis
that.
Enforcer, Nemesis Enforcer had these huge Nemesis Enforcer had these huge wings and stuff like that. They were just avenues for toy sales, and it fucking worked. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it didn't.
Yeah.
Because I bought
the Sea Spray Transformer.
Dude,
so it worked.
I was talking to Tim about this, and I was coming back from I think L.A. or it was either L.A. or New York. I think it was L.A. And I'm in the Delta terminal at LAX. And
Beautiful terminal.
They have a Mattel store there. Have you been to that?
No, I was fucking around. It sounds terrible. Delta sucks.
It's actually not a bad terminal. They've redone it. Delta's got this whole facelift thing they've been trying to do. But I walk into this Mattel store, and there is Mattel,
cool.
and there is not one,
They make toys.
not 2, but 3 different walls of Batman toys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if I had seen this when I was a child, my mother would have had to physically remove me from this store. I would have been like, because I'm kind of a crazy shopper. Like anyone that's ever shopped with me will tell you, like I vet every single option of everything. Like
he bought these jeans for me, and he made me try on a bunch of jeans to get to these jeans.
We tried everyone, and we tried every jean that fit you, and those look great.
Yeah,
great.
They do look good.
But if there's 15 Batmans on that wall, I got to know the difference.
Yep.
I got to know where they come from. I got to remember the episode they were in. And if there's not an episode, I got to go find that episode before I can buy. All this stuff has to happen in the store.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to get at.
A lot of work there.
It's a lot of work. And so I'm just like, what a great time to be a kid. Cause
I can't fucking express to you what an amazing time it is to be a child.
Must be amazing.
When I was back in Missouri, not this last time, but the time before, not that it matters, I was walking around Target with my friend and her 2 boys. And her boys are super jocks and into sports like she is. But like we made a turn to get to like the bats or whatever, and we're walking on this island. I stop and I turn around, and it's just an entire wall of Fisher Price DC Comics toys for like kids who are still too young to have the real action figures.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's this wall, and they are fucking obscure DC characters in there. You know what I mean? Like,
Really?
it's not just Superman. It's also Darkseid, and it's also Green Arrow, and it's also Brainiac, and it's also this, and it's also this, and it's like people from the Fortress of Solitude. And these kids aren't even into it. I'm like, you stop and look. This was literally, I remember when this was a dream world of reading a Superman comic when he's fighting Toyman, and they brawled into a toy store, and there was in the background of them fighting is this wall of Superman action figures with the shield on them and like all these different things. And I remember thinking, I wish I lived in that world, because it was such a pain in the ass to get DC toys as a DC kid. There was the superpower line when I was super young. Remember, like the kryptonite ring that would make Superman fall down and shit.
Wow.
And then there was a huge gap of nothing, no good Superman toys. Then there was the Superman Man of Steel one that they put out, which was like related all around the Death and Return. So it was stupid long hair Superman.
Yeah,
then a
that was
Superboy
weird.
figure that was awesome. They never made a Cyborg for that line. King Shark was in there, and it's like, all right, fine. And I remember buying all these and being a persuasive enough kid that my dream was coming true. And this is like when you talk about me being spoiled rotten, because I was spoiled rotten. No, I don't think I'm a rotten kid, but spoiled for sure. And my
You're the
parents,
only child.
Yeah, exactly. My parents being like, he's our only kid, we'll spoil him, buying 2 of each figure so I could have one mint on card.
Oh my
God.
Because not
really?
only in my dad's attic, not only do I have my entire comic collection in long boxes, I also have toys that are mint on card.
I'd love to go through your collections.
This
I gotta
thing-
come home with you.
This thing, same thing happened for. Eventually, they did a line called Total Justice. If you remember this, you probably don't. And it was finally a deep cut line of like, we're making a Green Lantern figure, we're gonna make a Martian Manhunter, and they were super limited editions. And like, this is like what my mom thinks back fondly on like us like bonding is like, we'd wake up on Saturdays and she would drive me from different, and I'm like a teenager at this point, to different malls, to go to different KB toy stores to find different total
KB toys.
to
Yeah.
find
Yeah.
different Total Justice figures. And when Total Justice was discontinued, there was an article about it in Wizard where they're like, we've put out the final line. They're really only going to be available in Warner Brothers Studio stores. And I'll never forget, there's this Parallax figure, Hal Jordan Parallax. Not the Parallax is all stupid in a gas cloud now. I mean, Hal Jordan is Parallax with his cape kicking out. And I was like, everybody get in the fucking car. We got to go to the Warner Brothers Studio store. And we
Oh
got
my God,
there,
the Warner Brothers Studio
and I'm
store?
on my knees. Like, and I went to the Warner Brothers Studio store a lot, believe it or
Yeah.
not. Like the Superman bust you were talking about today. And again, like the collection of Superman cookie jars and shit I have in my dad's attic. And like finding these, and people are like, oh, you want these? I'm like, what? And they went in the back and got the other thing out there because there was like a Despero and shit. It was like, fucking yes. Yes,
Fucking-
sir.
I just remember going to like a toy store and barely being able to find a Green Lantern.
Yeah,
and,
no,
and
you
being
couldn't.
Like,
And that's what's so hard to explain to
take
people.
it.
It's so hard to explain to people now of like the days when I would go to Toys R Us and you'd look on the wall and there wouldn't be what you wanted, and then you'd see they used to put the extra stock above, and I would get, me and my friends would boost each other up there to bring down the box because we
check.
knew
Yeah.
that there was, you know, X number of Superman in that
Exactly.
box,
Yeah.
but there'd be one Lex Luthor or whatever we were really looking for. There'd be
That's
that one.
what I was gonna say was with Star Wars. So with G.I. Joe was pre-internet when I was into G.I. Joe, and they canceled G.I. Joe in '94. When the Star Wars Power of the Force line started in '95, there was a website. Well, first it was Star Wars Insider, which was awesome. I used to buy shit from them. But there was a website called Rebel Scum and
Yeah.
another website called Yak Face, and they were dedicated only to Star Wars collecting. And they would release these numbers where you could. They were like, go into Walmart, look at the boxes above the thing. If the box says blah, 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 like 333, it means that there's 2 Stormtroopers and a Princess Leia and like all these
Yeah.
things. If the box says this, it means, and like, my dad still talks about it. He's like, I don't know why the fuck I did this for you, but like, I would bring you all over the fucking island
Yeah.
to buy these Star Wars figures. He's like, I'll never forget when the episode 1 figures came out. in 1999. He's like, we went to Toys R Us at midnight.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like, he like fended off, like, because my dad's a big dude, like fended, like they were just like put in bins basically. They weren't even like on a thing, and like I just grabbed, like we just grabbed everything. I bought like 25 figures that day.
Yeah.
And
Which
like,
one was your favorite?
Darth Maul.
Was there a Watto?
There was Watto, yeah. Watto was in Wave 1. But I feel what you're saying, because the whole action of, because I was really, first of all, I remember going, like, I remember Walls, and there was a Child's World was an old store in the
with the panda.
I remember just a whole aisle of GI Joes when I was a kid. I was like, and I still dream about it. I'll tell you guys that in a minute. But with Star Wars, I remember the sensation of carding through.
Oh yeah.
Like the action, like I still do it when I go to the store sometimes. Like without
Sure.
even
I always
you
have to
gotta
see.
do it.
I
You
have
gotta
to
do
see
it.
what's in the back.
Yeah.
But you're really good at just doing it without even thinking. Like it's a skill to and holding the one ahead of you.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
And I remember the Star Wars figures that were still really rare. I remember all of them. Like Princess Leia was fucking super rare. Lando was rare.
Yep.
The Stormtrooper was rare. Obi-Wan was rare. Like, and then later on, you couldn't find like the Emperor. You couldn't find like the Royal Guard. Like all these things. And when you saw them, you just picked them up and bought them.
This is the thing. We were talking about this. Like when I was a kid, I remember and this is before there was a Wizard or a Toy Fair, and I didn't understand what I was. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm looking at Donatello and Shredder, and I finally found an April O'Neil after searching forever.
She was the weirdest toy too, because she was like this.
Yeah.
Sure, I know. But you were still. I'm with
We're supposed to be
toys.
driving the van?
I was always
I
very
guess.
much continuity. I wanted. I like when they put out the Batman line, and it's like. There's 6 figures in this line. 4 of them are Batman in different suits, and then I always just wanted the normalest Batman.
Yeah, I don't want the grappling hook Batman.
Exactly,
Yeah.
I wanted
I
the
don't want
normal
Arctic
characters so I
Batman.
could tell a
Trench
normal
coat
story.
Donatello.
And it's the same thing. I remember we were on a trip to going somewhere in Indiana. I forget what, and it was the Kmart's had gotten these select boxes, like all multi figures in one thing, and they had a Batgirl figure, and it was like the first animated series Batgirl figure that was there. And I remember we stopped like 4 Kmart's before we hit one in Indiana that had it.
Please
You know
tell
what I
me you
mean?
bought it and you still have that.
Yes, fuck yeah, I bought it. Are
Dude,
you
the
kidding?
animated. Oh, that was so cool.
It was the best.
I'll just tell you
remember
before we move on real quick. I want to tell you guys this will make you laugh. This is a Colin kind of fucking weird thing. I remember the sensation of buying GI Joes, right?
Yeah.
And opening them, taking the bubble off the card, the smell of the GI Joe, putting the backpack on the first time, the weapon that fit perfectly.
Yeah, exactly. The snap.
And
it would never be like that again, by the way.
No, never.
That backpack's
And
gonna fall off,
still-
and you're gonna lose that thing.
So there's 2 things. I still, number one, whenever I go to a toy like a New York Comic Con, I always go and look for the old GI Joes, and I just hold. Like I look at all the old cards. I'm like, I remember when I bought Heat Viper. I remember when I bought Tunnel Rat. I remember I remember what they look like, and I just like stare, and I'm like, and it brings me like I almost close my eyes, and I'm almost like I remember
Tiny time machines.
Yeah, and I'm like, this
Sweet.
is really powerful. The other thing is that I dream every once in a while that. And by every once in a while, I probably mean like once a month. That like I'm in an old toy store, or like that I find because GI Joes now, the new ones that are really articulated and stuff, they're like $10, $12 a piece. GI Joes when we were kids were $3, and I have a dream that I find like a stash of them or something like that, and that comes from there used to be a department store called Bradley's in New England, and they closed down. And I remember when I went there during when they were clearancing everything off. For some reason, I went underneath. Like I was like, I wonder if there's anything underneath these toy shelves. And there was no toys, but there was a card, an old WWF card, from an old toy that was probably 15 or 20 years old. And I was like, fuck, like that there's probably an Ames or a Bradley's or something in New England that has just a fucking treasure trove of shit that some kid shoved under the shelf because he couldn't afford it, and then no one went back and found it again. You know what I mean? And it just. It gets me, like, when I think about the toys of my childhood, I get really excited about it. I get really excited about it. Because the toys are cooler today, but they're never going to be as cool in my mind as when I found Alley Viper for the first time, when I got my first Duke or Storm Shadow. Like,
dude, Storm Shadow was like...
When I got my first Storm Shadow, I was like, this is fucking awesome. And when they released the second version of Storm Shadow with the gray all over his camo or whatever, I was like, this is also fucking awesome.
I mean, especially just for like the stories though, and like it not to be like one of those guys kids these days will never understand, but like how rare all this was, how rare it was to find this kind of nerdy stuff. And I'm talking about like when the JLA animated series finally came on, right? And Subway was doing this stupid promotion where they had little figurines on like hooks for your backpacks and stuff. Me calling Subways for like a month. waiting for these fucking things to come
Those,
in. And
the
going in and
McDonald's,
buying everything.
like all the McDonald's
Yep.
Happy Meal toys. Like
yeah.
I feel like in the '90s, that was just
That was
insane.
madness.
Something else
Like,
we
there
did.
was-
I remember when
good ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were good ones.
Power
remember-
Ranger ones were amazing.
the one that stands out for me is Burger King when they had the Simpsons full-size dolls with the plastic heads and then like those the soft bodies. And that was another thing. We needed that whole set, and like me and my parents drove around forever.
McDonald's, I remember they had the Batman and Robin cups.
Yeah.
Like if you were in the '90s, everybody fucking had that cup.
Yeah.
Power Ranger movies, same thing. They had the cups and man,
Star Wars, back in my days, was like the thing. The Star Wars glasses and ET glasses.
Oh, yeah, the
I'm
glasses.
old.
ET glasses.
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Well, you're
What was
talking
your
about
Christmas
cup
present?
cups.
Lincoln
I'm
Logs?
talking about glass. Yeah.
Rocks.
River Raid on the Atari.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we
One of
fell
my
down the rabbit
favorites.
hole there. Christmas gifts to stand out for me would be when I got WWF Royal Rumble on Sega Genesis. That was such a big deal because that was the first game that had realistic match pacing that ended with finishing moves. I remember being at a friend's house and he had, or it was a friend of a friend because I was playing there. But like I remember when Crush did his head crush finisher move, and I was like, holy that's a real finisher. And then it ends in a pin. You're like, holy crap, I gotta play this game. You know, this is the end all be all of wrestling video games. It'll never get better than this. And then No Mercy happened, and then it never got better than that. But that for sure. My N64, when I got my N64, because that was one of those ones. I didn't go crazy like that. Because that was another one where I was late to that party, but it was time to get on that train after Sega fucked me royal every time.
Hey.
Knights? You didn't like Knights?
You know they fucked us.
Yeah, I know.
They fucked us good.
I fully
Saturn.
accept that.
What was I thinking?
Hey, Sega CD was a jam. Anyway.
It was not. It was not at all. And
Motion
then
video.
another big one was the Game Boy, because that was bought for me by my aunt and uncle. Because I remember my mom definitively saying, "There's no way I'm spending $100 on a video game system."
I remember playing that at Child World for the first time. That's really funny. The connection of Child World and that. That's really
Yeah, I'll
funny.
never. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry,
that's-
Child
yeah.
World. Yep, there we go.
Now I can hear you.
Okay. How far away do I just sound like miles away?
No,
What are
it
you-
just,
what are you-
it just
what's your
gets echoey, unfortunately, in the room.
Mine it would be a 3-tier if I was like 3 of the biggest ones that I could imagine. First, because I'm old as hell, was Atari 2600 when I got that for the first time. I was just like, oh my god, Atari 2600! And it had Pac-Man, because it was like having an arcade at home.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
Pong works.
Yeah. Years later, found out it was not a very good Pac-Man. Then two
Didn't
other
matter back
toys. In the vein of Mask, there was
Mask.
there was a toy called Captain Power. Do you remember this?
Pull it up.
Captain
Power, yes. And the
Yeah, Captain Power and the something.
No, you
Captain
think
Simeon and the
Planet?
Space Monkeys?
No. Captain Power. So let me back you up. Okay, Captain Power was amazing. So it was a game toy. So basically what it was, you got this jet with this like pilot in it, and you watch the TV show, which was on VHS, or you watch it on television, and these like red things would flash on screen, and you shoot the toy at the screen, and then if you hit it, you're like, bam! It makes some like green noise on your toy, and you're like, oh, that's awesome! It's working. And if you got shot by this TV screen, you missed. Your guy would launch out of the toy. Didn't really. I don't know exactly how it fully
I
worked.
do remember Captain Power.
Yeah.
And the Soldiers of the Future.
Soldiers of the Future. Yeah.
Soldiers of the future.
I don't remember this.
Oh, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah,
Right
for
on.
people that don't know out there, Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Universe is a 1987-88 Canadian-American science fiction action television series merging live action with animation based on computer-generated images
God
that ran for 22 episodes in Canadian and American syndication. A toy line was also produced by Mattel, and during each episode, there was a segment that included visual and audio material which interacted with the toys.
Yep. So you could actually like shoot the.
That's the
shoot
main
screen.
character.
Yeah.
That is a photo of somebody dressed as the main
That's not
character.
the main character.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah,
remember from my
That
youth.
was Captain Power. That is Captain Power.
Can you please right now send that to me? Text that to me.
Yeah.
That guy remembers.
That's what I remember. That guy
remembers.
Is that cosplay or is that the real guy?
I think that's cosplay.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this guy's got
Yeah,
a really,
that's cosplay.
this guy's got an awesome sense of humor.
Send it to me right now.
All right.
That's amazing. And then my third tier Christmas gift I always remember is my father couldn't find, so Voltron was a big deal.
Oh, shit,
So
man,
Voltron, when it
Voltron.
came out that year, every kid was like going crazy trying to get it. My dad couldn't get me Voltron, but he got me the flea market version of Voltron instead,
Yep.
which was not at all
Off-brand,
Voltron.
wrong
Yeah.
colors. Kind of looks right, but it's not right.
Yeah.
No
You're
frills
like,
Voltron.
oh. You put it together and didn't really do as well.
Kirkland Voltron.
Yeah,
Voltron. My mother
awesome.
is one of the more savvy people in my life, and she, I think, understood, even though she never really quite destroyed the illusion for me, that toys were really just like cartoons were really just that. They were made just to sell kids toys and get them addicted. It was like a legal drug at that point.
Sure.
You had no choice but to ask your parents for these exorbitantly expensive things, right? You know, like Voltron, when you put the whole set together, that was expensive.
Yeah.
So my mother, when I wanted Voltron, bought me one of the lions.
Oh, really?
And she's like, that's it. That's all you're getting.
You're cut
And
off.
I'm like, Mom, I can't make
Go to your
Voltron
friends who got the other lines.
unless I have all of them.
Yeah,
And she's like,
Voltron was
no.
ingenious because it really did force you to buy everything.
all the toys.
Same with the Turtles. I remember the Turtles toys being really expensive too, for some reason. And they were hard to find.
Maybe that's why my
It was
dad
like
bought me.
really
Turtles
hard.
was fucking mega huge.
Yeah.
In the late
Turtles
80s.
was hard though because I was like, Greg, I wanted just the normal. Like I wanted normal Michelangelo.
I wanted
not no
normal
freaking
Turtles, normal
bullshit.
Bebop and Rocksteady, normal Shredder, normal. Yeah, I just wanted
Yeah,
the line.
it didn't work out for me with the Turtles though. Like I had Trenchcoat Donatello.
Of course you did. Yeah.
And I had the Michelangelo that stuck his tongue out. I'm like, I don't want that one.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
Yeah.
I had the normal Raph, and then I had millions of Leos because he's my favorite.
I wish I knew what happened to my Turtles because the only Turtles
Blue.
I have still I have Casey Jones because he was my favorite, and I have Rocksteady and Bebop still that are like lying around, and then I have the little mice.
Mousers.
Mousers. And
Mousers,
you would
yeah.
and you would line them up and
Yeah.
they would like.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't know. I think they came with Krang maybe or something like that. Or
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it did. Yeah.
But I don't know like what happened. I don't know where any of the Turtles are. I don't know where Shredder is. I don't know where the Foot Soldiers are. I don't know. Like I came across some random toys. Like I found my Terminator toys. I had like Terminator 2
There
toys.
were Terminator 2 toys?
Yeah, there was one where like you could buy like Arnold and then you could press a button on his back and his front would come off.
Oh,
and
yeah,
and be the silver Terminator.
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
That's cool.
Nice.
Tim.
Yes. So for me, for video games, the most like my happiest Christmas video game memory is gonna shock you guys.
Pokemon, right?
No, it's not.
PSP. Getting a PSP.
No.
Yep.
Prince of Persia: Warrior Within,
Oh. Okay.
Ah.
which is
On
like
what PS2? GameCube?
Yeah.
I had it on Xbox. I stuck with Xbox for
Oh.
that series. And that trilogy is one of my favorite video game
Yeah?
trilogies ever. I fucking love it. But what's funny to me is like, you know, I got a bunch of video games for Christmas throughout my life, but that one, I got it and I was just like, I'm playing this. This is the best. And I didn't expect it. It was a genuine surprise. Someone random got it for me and I was like, they usually don't get me Christmas presents. They
Yeah.
did. And I was like, whoa. And I think it was that made it so special, was the fact that
Sure.
no way did I see that coming. So that was excellent.
I remember, real quick, just the same vein. I remember when my grandmother got me Madden on Game Gear. And I was like, damn, Grandma, like I didn't think you
Grandma.
understood what video games were, let alone a Game Gear
I
game.
definitely didn't know you knew what the fuck a Game Gear was. Did she also get you like 50 AA batteries?
I just sat next to the outlet, plugged in.
Between that and Nomad, yeah.
So when I was little, though, the Christmas that I just lost my shit was a Ninja Turtles playset. There, I had this one that was like,
Stop listening to the Mask
I just want
soundtrack.
you guys to hear this.
it's good.
I know we're going to get a copyright.
We're not going to get copyright strike for Mask.
We are. All right, stop. Too much now. You're getting now we're getting the copyright.
You're
Having a
interrupting.
moment. You destroyed it.
That was for my brother who watches the show, Matt.
What up, Matt?
So
You
there's
know what I mean?
the above street level where they would all fight, and then
Yeah.
it went down below to the sewer. So it was the
Sewers.
actual like the sewer playset for them.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. But my mom also got me the turtle van.
I never got the turtle van.
Launching those
dude.
pizzas.
Never got it.
Yeah, it would launch pizzas from the top, and
Yep.
also it had the door that swung open
Yep.
that like you could put one of the turtles on.
Oh,
man,
yeah.
that toy was just like
That was a great toy.
we were
That
just
was
the
the
cool.
How did
Kevin had the Technodrome, so
I had the
together we would
Technodrome
all play
too,
together,
yeah.
and that was just
Wait,
so
they have
much
a
fun.
Technodrome? They
Yeah.
actually-
Oh
yeah.
god,
Oh, yeah.
What did you guys come? I know this is a super long topic. We should
It's
make
not
it
a super long topic. It's a super long show.
in general. I was a little disappointed that there wasn't a uniform height to all toys across the planet.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah, that was
that's
so
always
hard mixing
upsetting.
playsets.
Hated it.
Marvel and DC guys
Hated
never
it.
lining up when they found
I thought it was
Yeah.
fine. I mean, because everyone, like within the universe, they all made sense.
Sure,
I was
it
always
would've
a little
been nice.
confused why, like, what we were saying, like hundreds of GI Joes were all 3 3/4 inch tall, except for Serpentor, Galopulus, and Nemesis Enforcer. But I like that. Everyone had a different flavor. That
Nah,
I enjoy it. Why would like Kenner make toys that were viable with Mattel toys, which would make
because
at
it
the
would
time
make children
Hasbro was
happy.
Yeah.
Crossovers would have made more sense.
What
Banging
would
them
make
all
sense?
together?
The Mask fucking Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing. Mask was small, weren't they? Really? Weren't
Yeah, they were like this big. They were like really
It's all
small.
the vehicles.
Yeah, they were
Because it was the
really,
vehicle.
really
They had to
tiny.
fit in the
Yeah,
vehicles.
I remember that.
Well, like Power Rangers were gigantic. That was the other problem.
Well, it's the Power Rangers how they should be. They should all be.
Taking
What is that? 5.5.
They were probably
inches?
like 5.5 inches. Yeah.
That's to me. That is the '90s action figure not internet standard, just standard. It's the best.
internet standard
I don't know,
figure
it's not
size.
that. But yeah, no, like that. I feel like all action figures should be that big, except for the turtles because they're turtles and they should be smaller. That just makes sense in my
Yeah,
head
that-
for some reason.
Another
Shouldn't be
gigantic
9 feet
in that
tall.
movie.
Another Christmas thing that I just like. Kevin's mom got me this and it like fucking blew my mind. Was it's a Leonardo, but it was an armor edition and like it was like each of the Ninja Turtles had a different spirit animal, and Leonardo's was a dragon, and it was like fucking dragon armor that went on it, and it was like shiny blue, and it was the coolest thing ever. Like that was my favorite toy of all time. So he'd always be the main character of the story,
Yeah.
and then everyone else would just kind of play
Yeah.
around. One of my dream passion projects for a video that I want to make at some point when we hopefully
Can have the time.
Our internet
to-
superstar.
Sure.
when we're Internet Superstars is I want to do this thing where it starts off where there's just little kids playing with action figures, and then it kind of like cuts into like Freddie Wong style what the actual story that they're doing
nice.
with it.
I like
Some
that.
crazy ass crossover of just like explaining the story that we all came up with as little kids of why
Sure.
Leonardo was hanging out with the Red Ranger and all that shit.
'Cause it's cool
it'd
as
be
ice.
so fucking cool. And then the last Christmas present
Yeah.
that I want to say, because I feel like Colin will hate me for this or love me for this, was I convinced my dad to get me an entire box of Young Jedi trading cards.
That's cool. I can appreciate that.
I was 8. So it
No,
makes sense.
it's all good. I the Star Wars fandom ran deep when we were kids. I mean, we made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Mistakes were made.
I know we're gonna wrap this up, and I keep saying that, and then I keep talking.
Then you
for
keep
another
giving
35
another
minutes.
non sequitur that has nothing to do with Christmas.
No, I'm just gonna give a quick shout out because Tim mentioned his favorite toy, and one of my favorite toys, which we should totally do. This is a different topic. Was when the 1989 Batman movie came out. Do you
Yeah.
remember this toy?
Wow, the Batmobile where the guns flipped up?
No,
Or-
the Batman figure that had the belt that
Oh, right.
came out.
Yeah, and
and
he-
it was a
then
grappling
he-
hook
he-
belt,
I had that.
Oh.
I had that. Yeah.
and you could just let him go, and he'd go.
Yeah, he repelled back up with it.
I haven't thought of that in a long time. I had that.
That was a
it was
really good
cool.
one.
It
Yeah.
was so cool.
That was always the Spider-Man too. The ones that they tried to copy with Spider-Man that made no sense, where his chest piece pulled out and then it looked like webs and pulled up. I'm like, you motherfuckers, if you read a
Have you read
Spider-Man
Spider-Man?
comic, he ain't
Yeah.
shooting shit out his chest.
Yeah.
and
Why
crawling
did they?
back
Why
up.
did they come out of his arm?
Might as well put it out his ass. That would make more sense. At least it would make more sense happening.
Spider-Man! Hey, Spider-Man!
Hey, Spider-Man! Why is your chest exploding and pulling you towards the sun?
I really hope these days little kids are
Spider-Man
playing
just-
with like a crane playset for Spider-Man.
Swing him over here, Tony.
Is there a C. Thomas Howell
we can
figurine?
only
That would be
hope.
amazing.
3.5.
I do need to
Yeah.
give a shout out
Cranes?
to my mom for the other Christmas gift that I'll never forget. Of course, is the Ghostbuster Firehouse.
Oh.
She'll still complain about to this day about like putting the stickers on and like having to look at photos to make sure she nailed it because she knew I'd cry or something if they were even remotely.
Man,
off.
you were a fragile motherfucker.
You're either gonna
Yeah.
cry or throw up.
I mean, that's the thing with
You
like.
were one of those fragile motherfuckers.
Yeah, I totally was. That's another. I'll write that down for my top. I'll tell you Fragile Greg stories next time. Fragile. Greg.
I wasn't fragile because I had three
Stories.
older siblings.
Yeah,
That
no,
made sure I wasn't fragile.
I don't even want to. Let's just table it right now. It'll be my topic next week. We'll get
yeah,
into it.
having brothers and sisters versus being the only child. That would be an interesting topic.
Well, I'm just doing Fragile Greg stories.
Fragile Greg.
I'm sure it'll turn into that.